With Golden Black Radio, and I just came from my local Academy Sports and Outdoors store. The most festive gear of the year is back, guys, at Academy Sports and Outdoors. Don't miss the limited edition Magellan Outdoor Christmas Market Collection only at Academy. Get exclusive 2025 gear and gifts for all your holiday parties, fun family photos, and Christmas morning traditions. Check out the entire collection, from matching PJs and holiday print fishing shirts and dresses to exclusive new Mossy Oak Snowdrift camo styles and more. Shop in-store or at academy.com. Need it fast? Get same-day delivery powered by DoorDash. Let your holiday fun begin with Magellan Outdoors Christmas Market Collection only at Academy.
Welcome to our Tuesday night edition of Tuesday Night Live. You've been used to seeing some football. We're going to talk some basketball tonight with our resident expert, Brian Neubert. Take some of your questions. A lot to get to as Purdue opens up plays its second exhibition game tomorrow night against UIndy, and of course the start of the regular season next week. And Brian will have a lot to say about that. He already has on the site, so we'll look forward to that as well. Remember that AcrePro.com sponsors Tuesday Night Live. When it comes to land sales, it pays to have experts in your corner. Acre Pro Midwest Farm Group are your local farmland specialists with decades of experience in Indiana agriculture. No one knows the market better. Whether you're doing a 1031 exchange, which Mr. Neubert might be doing right now, it's just getting ready for the show, I'm not sure, or you're simply buying and selling farmland, your local Acre Pro agent will walk the land with you and ensure that the deal is done right. Kyle Spray and company do a great job, and we appreciate their support. So visit acrepro.com or call 765-775-6502. to talk to your local land expert. Again, that number 765-775-6502. And we'll bring Mr. Neubert, Brian Neubert, in. And Brian, little hoops talk tonight. And obviously, I don't know, with another exhibition tomorrow against UIndy, I don't know that we're going to see, I don't know what we're going to see tomorrow night. I don't know, did you guys end up having availability today as well? No availability even for that.
No. Once the real games start, we'll get back into a routine. So.
Yeah, that's what I figured, but I didn't know. And you look back, and I guess we'll go back and talk about the Kentucky game, but also just what you saw out of that. Obviously, Purdue, maybe the margin of defeat was a little bit surprising, but a lot to be. If you're looking at the long view, Purdue had a lot of things to look at. You broke it down well in your upon further review, and even talking about the Purdue offense today on the site. But your takeaways from that game here 3 or 4 days later.
Yeah, when you look at the final margin, I mean, it's you got a couple of lob dunks at their end for Kentucky. Purdue's got Omer Mayer on the floor, Braden Smith's out of the game. It was just an exhibition. Like, yeah. I know it comes off a certain way when you keep saying that over and over again, but people take these things way too seriously, and specifically the people who win them tend to take these things way too seriously and way too personally, as if by pointing out reality, we are somehow indicting their team's effort. I get the SEC; it means more down there,
sure,
but we've seen this 3 years in a row now. Purdue keeps practicing just with Purdue stuff, not with opponent-specific material. They go down there specifically to play on the road. They will never play a home game for one of these things if they can help it, specifically so that they can get beat up on. This doesn't necessarily mean beat. It means beat up on. It means they want whatever their potential weaknesses might be to get exposed. And they want their guys rattled by a visiting crowd, or not rattled, preferably by a visiting crowd. They want them tested. And you're basically walking into these things down 10-0 because you've got one hand tied behind your back based on the fact you haven't prepared to win.
Right.
And you're on the road, and you're playing a good opponent, and nobody on their home floor is going to want to lose. So that team is going to be prepared. And when you look at the way Kentucky defended Purdue versus the way Purdue played offense, it was pretty evident that, Kentucky prepared for this. Purdue's just running like 5 plays that they ran 1,000 times last season. So I don't know if you necessarily want to take too much from it. I think that people seem to think that Kentucky's athleticism and size and physicality really bothered Purdue. And I think maybe to some extent that's true.
Yeah.
Kentucky, for as long as basketball's been played, has been bigger, longer, and more physical than people, or at least since after Adolph Rupp or during Adolph Rupp.
Even Adolph Rupp, even before the 1966 the Texas Western game. Yeah, you're right.
Before he went woke.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Yeah. So Kentucky, surprisingly, is bigger, more athletic, and more physical than Purdue. That's going to be true 99 out of 100 seasons.
Right.
As has been shown over the course of history. People think that really bothered Purdue. And did it stop Purdue from getting the shot it wanted almost every time? It did not. Purdue only turned the ball over 7 times. The rebounding thing was not ideal, but Kentucky shot 29 threes. There were a lot of threes that got offensive rebounded, and that's not an indication of size and physicality. That's an indication of the bounces an orange leather thing takes when it's full of air and hits on something rigid. So no, I kind of reject the notion that Purdue couldn't stack up to Kentucky's size and athleticism. I think they did fine. I think they got the shots they wanted. I mean, Kentucky was just fortunate Fletcher Lawyer didn't score 27 points. Purdue's just fortunate Trey Kaufman-Renn didn't score 30. Because those guys miss shots they normally shoot at a very high percentage on. And if you look at the process involved in getting the shots that Purdue got versus the actual outcome, Purdue got what it wanted. And it's only scored 65 points, but it got an average quality of shot basically commensurate to like a 95 or a 90-point performance. If you give Purdue all of those shots they got at Kentucky, in every game this season, they're going to lead the country in scoring by a wide margin. So I wouldn't take all that much from it. I wouldn't take it too literally, I guess is what I'm saying.
Hard thing not to do when, it's funny because the Athletic I can't remember who was writing for
CJ Moore.
Put Purdue from 1st to 8th after the, again, whatever. Now, Houston lost its exhibition game too, I believe, to Mississippi. So there you go. And you kind of hit on this week. And by the way, please chat us your questions. We got a question about revenue share, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. Brian and I are up to speed on some of the issues there. One about a Freedom of Information Act. With this, what bright spots did the staffer you take from the UK game? And you've kind of hit on some of those things. One of the things that I, again, just kind of watching and wondering, and again, one game, just it takes time also to get the Omer Mayers of the world, the Oscar Cloughs, even just kind of getting in the flow of playing together. I know they've been playing together in practice and all that. Do you have any concern? Just giving Trey Kaufman-Renn enough space to do what he needs to do. Is that going to? Do you think, again, one game with no preparation is not a good litmus test? But is that going to be a challenge now that you've got 2 post guys that are going to play the majority, if not all, of the other time? I mean, it's not going to be like Kaufman-Renn's going to be on the floor by himself like he was last year in the pivot. What do you see from that standpoint?
Trey Kaufman-Renn started every game as a sophomore next to Zach Edey. He wasn't necessarily the focal point of the offense, but he's accustomed to that sort of environment. They prepared to play last season like Kaufman-Renn was going to play the 4 next to either Daniel Jacobson or Will Berg. And, Jacobson got hurt. Will Berg showed he wasn't up to it. And they had to adjust accordingly. So Purdue's, it's not like they're just trying this now. I think, there will be ways where it's an advantage for Purdue. There are some things you're probably going to have to finesse a little bit in terms of not getting in each other's way. There's going to be some things defensively where people are going to try to drag Purdue out on the perimeter, but Purdue's built its defense around being big and around having guys who aren't great containing the dribble. What you want to do is you want to make sure you keep Trey Kaufman-Renn out of those closeouts because he's not a straight line sprinter.
Yeah.
And at the 4, you have to close out more than you do at the 5. So it just goes back to Purdue's just got to do a better job across the board containing the dribble. But in terms of the offense, you saw in the Kentucky game, Purdue go back to that inverted ball screen they were on with Braden Smith. They can run that farther out now, and that can spread the floor a little bit. Trey Kaufman-Renn is a really good face and drive guy. And when he's away from the basket, that allows him to face up a little bit more than he might ordinarily. Either drive past people or back into a post up. The farther out you catch it, the farther out you start your back down, the longer that somebody who might be coming over to help has to travel, and consequently, the longer Trey Kaufman-Renn has to read the situation, the longer Oscar Clough or Daniel Jacobson, whoever it might be, has to cut to the rim. This is why I think that Trey Kaufman-Renn's assists are going to go through the roof this year. When you're in your ball screen action, they're running a lot of that horn stuff, a lot of that stagger screen around the free throw line, so that there's going to be Trey Kaufman-Renn rolling in his short roll thing. Braden Smith might kick it back out to him, then the 5-man, who's the other screener, is going to be going right to the rim. So instead of shooting that ball like Trey Kaufman-Renn would have every time last year, he might be able at times to dump it off to the center, just like I'm showing you right there, for dunks and layups. And I think what people missed about Purdue last season was they could not finish at the rim. God love Caleb First and, the other guys who were in that quote-unquote dunker spot. When you look at Purdue's shot chart from last year, one side of the rim is all high percentage. The other side of the rim is an absolute black hole. That is Trey Kaufman-Renn's side of the rim versus the other side of the rim, where Purdue did not have people who could maximize their high percentage opportunities when they came their way. And now I think between Jacobson, Oscar Clough, whoever it might be, I think Purdue's going to be in a much better spot to finish those plays. So I think you're going to see Trey Kaufman-Renn be more of a passer this year than he would have been last year. I don't think that cuts into his scoring. I think it amplifies his scoring. And I just think the spacing thing, you just don't want Trey Kaufman-Renn crashing into the center, but they're smart enough to figure that out. I mean, they've done this before. You remember when Zach Edey was a senior, they would oftentimes start the second half by going to Kaufman-Renn instead of Edey, just to take advantage of the fact that everybody was expecting them to go to Edey, and because Trey Kaufman-Renn had a smaller guy on him. And now at the 4, Trey Kaufman-Renn's going to have a smaller guy on him, and you're going to want to isolate him however you can. If that means Daniel Jacobson shooting threes, if that means Oscar Clough setting up at the elbow for that handoff stuff and playing high-low, I think that there's going to be a lot of opportunities there for them to create a lot of favorable matchups for Kaufman-Renn.
All right, we take questions on this, and this is one Brian kind of hit on earlier. Some of the chatter is, and there's been chatter certainly. If Purdue wasn't trying to win, why would it play? They play their stars 30 minutes. Okay. I don't agree with the view, but what are your thoughts? And you kind of hit on that.
Trying to win and preparing to win are two different things. Braden Smith played 32 minutes, right?
Right. Yeah, and I don't have the box in front of me, but yeah.
Yes, he played 32 minutes. If this was a regular season game, he would not have come up on the floor.
Yeah.
He sure as hell would not have been on the bench in the first half. Purdue played lineups in the first half you will never see again this season. They had Trey Kaufman-Renn and Braden Smith on the bench at the same time. You will never see that again this season unless somebody's hurt, somebody's in foul trouble, whatever it might be. It was simple experimentation. When we say they're not trying to win, we don't mean that the players aren't trying to win, that Matt Painter is not coaching the game to win. But did Purdue double team the post once in that game?
Yeah.
Purdue always double teams the post. They were just playing. I mean, they were just out there playing. That doesn't mean just playing isn't trying to win. But what they did not do was they did not go back and watch film of all of Kentucky's transfers, to get a personnel dossier on every player. They did not go back and watch film of Kentucky last year to try to figure out what to expect, if you could, for a team with only 4 guys back. That's what I'm saying. There was no scouting report. There was no quote-unquote game plan. That doesn't mean Purdue was throwing the game. It's if you go out there and play and you win, cool. If you go out there and play and lose, the important part is the experience. So I think people misconstrue that a little bit. Maybe I'm not articulating it properly.
No, I think you are.
But there's a difference between not trying to win and not doing everything in your power to win.
Yeah, there's the minutes, by the way. I did looking at the box score. TKR, Kaufman ran 28 minutes. Well, here 31 and Smith 32. And they were pretty clear. Again, as you've said many times, this has been the MO of how they've played exhibition games. And you may see tomorrow night against Indy a far different skill level. Again, they're going to try to get to, I would suggest that you're going to see some combinations that you're not going to see during the regular season. And who knows, it could be a prop bet. I'm kind of half kidding here. Will Braden Smith play 30 minutes tomorrow night against UIndy? I don't know.
Tomorrow doesn't matter.
Right.
That's all due respect to UIndy. But this is what the exhibitions used to be like.
Yeah, correct.
Before they started doing first the close scrimmages, then the charity exhibition games, and now the just exhibition games.
Yeah.
The reason Purdue goes to Arkansas, goes to Creighton, goes to Kentucky, and loses is to get the exact opposite of the fool's gold, testosterone, dopamine kick you used to get from beating teams like this by 30 or 40 or 50. So don't put any stock in anything you see tomorrow night.
Yeah,
for very different reasons, and you shouldn't put a whole lot of stock in what you saw at Kentucky.
Yeah, and I think that's the true. That goes somewhat without saying. Now, the Purdue will open up its regular season next week against Evansville. What do you make too of the whole schedule? You're going to play Alabama here. You're going to obviously to the Bahamas just in the month of November. Then, of course, Iowa State and Marquette and Auburn all in December. I don't think anything changes in terms of your outlook in terms of what this team needs to do. But what does it need to do if you're Matt Painter here in the next few weeks? What do you want to get accomplished? Is it as much getting, and we haven't talked about Omer Mayer, but getting those guys in the flow of how you want to use them? What do you see as an important thing for Purdue to be able to accomplish here in the next few weeks?
Well, you want to win every game, first of all. You want to build a number one seed resume because those are obviously the stakes for Purdue this year. So you have to do everything you have to do to win every game, if at all possible. Along the way, and practice occurs too. So when we talk about getting Omer Mayer on board or up to speed or onboarded, I guess is the term I'm looking for. That happens in practice too. I think people sometimes forget about that. It's not just the game experience that's important, but it's the practice experience too. So getting those guys up to speed and making sure they know what they're doing. They know their assignments, things like that. They know where their shots are going to come from. And when they do, they're ready to shoot. They understand that defense at this level is important. It's different. That's the important part of this. It's a great look. And this is why he does the Kentucky thing, is to give them a firsthand look right off the bat at this is what the highest level of college basketball looks like. You are not going to be guarding this exhibition scrub from, whatever Division III school you might have played 10 years ago. You're going to be guarding Jasper Johnson.
Right.
So it's about getting those guys to understand what it takes, at the highest level, and the importance of taking care of the basketball, the importance of continuing to dribble, the importance of effort, the importance of communication, stuff like that. So I don't think you really judge Omer Mayer by stats or whatever. I think you judge him by mistakes. I think if he looks like he's never played college basketball before, it's because he hasn't. But as those mistakes go from this to this to this in a downward progression, that's how you kind of gauge his success, like you would any freshman. I think people, obviously are very gravitate very much to Omer Mayer for very obvious reasons. He's obviously a brilliant talent, a very high-end recruit, but I think his role on this team is that of a complimentary guy. It's great you have a second playmaker, you have a second point guard, you have a really talented dude who can go get a shot. But what you need on this team is for him to blend in before he can kind of stand out, next year, or when you need him to this season. If something's going on where, Braden Smith's in foul trouble or whatever, and you need Omer Mayer to come in and go be Carson Edwards for a few minutes, maybe he can do that. But in the short term, it's about him being solid and him fitting in and him making the stars around him better, which is ultimately what everybody at the NBA level has to do in the first place anyway. So I think it's part of the reason why he came to Purdue, was he wanted to play with great players and not necessarily be the guy right away, as counterintuitive as that might sound nowadays. But he wanted kind of a diversity of experience, and that will be his experience this year, is to kind of be a piece of a great team and not the centerpiece of a great team. Oscar Clough just has one job. I mean, it's go play hard, go defend, go be physical, go rebound. I know that's 4 things, but I think they're all under the same umbrella. This is a guy who can have a very narrow job description and still transform this team. Daniel Jacobson, he's not new, but he's kind of new. I think Oscar Clough gives him a little more runway to kind of ease back into this. People are going to be really physical with him. It's kind of that early season will be important for him to understand what kind of physicality is coming his way. Not that he should have to after he played internationally the last couple summers. So I think the experience for those new guys is more about just seeing really high level physicality and athleticism and understanding what they have to do in their possible roles on this team to make Braden Smith, Trey Kaufman, and Fletcher Lawyer better.
Yeah. Ryan, I apologize to you. It is Omer Meyer. I keep screwing you up because it's not Mayer, it is Meyer.
Well, I can't get a straight answer from anyone.
Well, that's in the pronunciation. I think it is, and Chris Foreman's notes, I believe, is correct. But anyway, be that as it may, the question on a question about, and this was a quote, I think it was taken out of the Indy Star article about, we've got serious problems, which Painter, I think, did say in post game. But, Purdue is the flavor of the month, and rightfully so, in the preseason number 1. And there'll be another pullout before long, and whether that impacts. But hard to know. But Matt Painter is good at I don't know if motivation's the right word, but still playing the fact that, again, getting back to what you said all along, these games are you're meant to learn something about your team and what you need to work on, and even though you didn't prepare a whole lot for them, is that the safest way to look at yes, there is some panic among the fan base. I get it. But it's not realistic from that standpoint. But what do you see there?
Well, I think that quote is being a little bit taken out of context. Painter's point was that we're not perfect and we need to know we have to get better. That's kind of his way of saying that. And what people also have to understand is that when coaches talk at a microphone, they are not talking to me, they're not talking to you, they're not talking to the fans, but they're also talking to their players.
Right, no question.
And one of Purdue's theoretical challenges this year is, this is a team and a coach who always wants his players agitated, on the edge of their seats, on edge, so to speak. And I think he's going to do everything he can to get out in front of overconfidence, get out in front of complacency. I don't see any red flags in those areas.
No.
But I don't think he's going to pass up on any opportunity to tell people that Purdue's not as good as everybody thinks, or Purdue is not perfect, which no team is perfect. So the whole "we've got problems" thing was part of a spiel he was giving to all the boosters from Kentucky in the press conference about rationalizing why he would want to schedule a game like this to come lose.
Yeah.
And when I say that it's the boosters from Kentucky who were in there were more boosters in there than there were media.
Yeah.
And there were a hell of a lot of media. But I think the media there from Kentucky were kind of, there is this tendency, sometimes Matt Painter kind of does things his way, And sometimes when he goes on the road or he goes to other places, the locals there, the local media, kind of tilt their head looking at him, like trying to figure out what he's doing. Like the year in 2019 when they had Grady Eifert starting, people didn't understand Grady Eifert.
Yeah.
People didn't understand where he was productive. They just looked at a white walk-on who couldn't jump and, just were like, how is he winning with that guy? And Painter would have to explain, productivity and decision-making and efficiency, and people would look at him like dogs who just heard a new sound.
Yeah.
And I think, when they went to Kentucky this past weekend, he's explaining the rationale of everything we've been talking about here for the last 15 minutes about wanting your team to go get pushed and, exposing them to failure. And I think a lot of these places that know only wanting to win everything you do. And again, Purdue didn't want to lose. They wanted to compete. But a lot of people don't understand that. And I think his answer about having problems was part of his explanation to the people who, maybe don't quite grasp why he does the things he does sometimes.
Yeah.
And what he does isn't rocket science. Like this isn't, I've always said this about like the 3-point shooting. Like they transformed as a program when he started recruiting all these shooters. And then he got good big guys, and that really amplified the shooters. Why was that so novel? Like when was jump shooting in basketball not important?
Yeah.
And why isn't everyone doing this? It's just he's got such a common sensibility to him about how he operates a basketball program, how he coaches a team, that you just wonder why all these other coaches are so obtuse to how important this stuff is.
Yeah. He's been very, it's the proverbial not rocket science.
I just used obtuse in a sentence.
I know that's
triple word score.
Triple word score, and of course one of the great movies of all time, Shawshank Redemption. So there you go. Brian, do you think Jakari Harris and of course CJ Cox are athletic enough to defend Purdue's ability to stop the dribble, which has been, or stop penetration? And again, I don't even know how you, after watching it again, how much you saw that being a huge issue. It's been a problem. It is for a lot of teams. But what do you see as those guys roll? They're obviously capable defenders. They can do a lot of other things. But what do you see from Cox and Harrison? Do you see them as complementary with an E, where they're going to basically split the 40 minutes at that position? What do you see?
Yeah, I think that last year both of them were jumpy and a little panicky and a little overeager, a little over-aggressive. And I think what you saw in the NCAA tournament, Purdue backed off that full court pressure, and their defense got better. Their half court defense got better. I think if you're judging things based on Kentucky, you have to understand Purdue did not have a scouting report, did not have a game plan, did not have any of those things, and dribble containment will always look better when your help is well defined.
Yes.
And people are carrying out their roles and things like that. I think both of those guys can be really good on-ball defenders. I think Jakari Harris can be a no-Joe Eastern level defender with his versatility. I think he can get guys bigger than him. He's got to do it, though. I mean, Purdue tells him all the time, you got to go Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year, but now it's kind of his chance to prove it. He is a real competitor. He does give great effort. He's smart, and I think that's a good combination. And if anybody has the wiring to live up to their potential, I think it's him. CJ Cox, I think, can be really good defensively as well on the ball. To the part of your question about whether you just view those guys as one entity, that's probably the best way to do it. I know when there's 50-50 minute shares and when there's
60-40 or whatever.
60-40, whatever it might be, you're going to see a different guy close the game than started it quite a bit this year, depending on the hot hand. very similar to a Trey Copeland, Mason Gillis type of thing. Very similar to when Purdue had two awesome centers at all times. Just because one guy starts doesn't mean that the other guy is not going to be the more impactful player in that game and the more important player in that game when all is said and done. I think that they're basically co-starters. And I was going to say that for a while about Oscar Clough and Daniel Jacobson, but I think Clough is maybe a little bit more of the guy there than C.J. Cox is over Jakari Harris. But
interesting, yeah.
They're going to be good competitive tone setters. I think you're going to see their experience show up. But I think you're also going to see them settle down a little bit after their freshman years. And I think you're going to see a better group around them. But Purdue thinks the world of them as on-ball defenders, but they got to go do it.
Yeah.
They got to keep the ball in front of them. That first surge has really killed Purdue last year quite a bit. And it's just a non-negotiable that Purdue has to do a better job staying out of defensive rotations.
Yeah, no question. Alan Karpick here with Brian Neubert, and also thanks to acrepro.com. Reminder, call 765-775-6502 and talk to your local land expert. And Kyle Spray and company, we appreciate all that they do for us. You have in a situation, too, that a question here about injuries and also about Antoine West. And, I don't know whether that's, I guess he could still play tomorrow night, right, and still redshirt, right? So, and I don't know that Purdue's ever pulled a redshirt off somebody that I can remember after an injury, and they brought somebody in late. I think that's right.
Well, they would had to have last year had Raleigh Burgess initially decided to redshirt.
Yeah.
Had he been redshirting and Daniel Jacobson breaks his leg, Burgess is out of redshirt as soon as so fast.
I don't remember them ever doing it. You?
Spun. No, I don't.
I don't think they have. But
they brought in guys mid-year who had to redshirt, but I don't remember them ever pulling anybody out of redshirt.
Yeah. So I mean, what's your feeling about what you saw at the West, and if you were hedging, what do you think they'll do there? Is that still too early to tell?
Well, I'm not sure there's a they. I think it's a he.
Yeah. It's always up to the player, right?
Yeah, I think, and people probably think that's crap, but Painter will, if he hasn't already, will sit down and say, look, we love you. We think you're going to be really good. Here's what we think would happen if you redshirted versus here's what I got for you right now.
Yeah.
And when you sit here and you say, here's what I got for you right now, you're sitting here looking at C.J. Cox and Jakari Harris. And you're looking at Omer Mayer, who you have to play. He's too good not to, and you got to get him ready for next year. And you obviously recruited him to a situation that you can't deviate from now, even if you wanted to. You got Fletcher Lawyer, you got Braden Smith, you got Jack Benner, who's going to probably move around a little bit. There's just not a whole lot there. So when you look at the next year's roster, assuming everybody's back and assuming everybody who's committed is at Purdue, which there's no reason to think otherwise, Antoine West might start, and have 4 great years, or however we even term that nowadays. So it's ultimately, it's up to the kid. All he's got to do is look at Trey Kaufman to see what that did for him. When it was Trey Kaufman deciding to redshirt, it was Sasha Stefanovic who talked to him and said, hey, this really worked to my benefit. Jack Benner, it's really going to have worked to his benefit. He wouldn't have played last year.
Yeah.
It's what you just don't want to happen is you just don't want to look back at Ryan Klein or Ryan Smith and say, man, if we just redshirted him, like we should have or could have or even planned to in some cases, think about what that 5th year would have been for that player versus what that first year ended up being for that player.
Yeah.
So there's no right answer in situations like this. When you like a kid enough that you think he can help you play right away, great. There's no wrong answer.
Yeah.
Now 5 years from now, there might be a wrong answer, but nobody can think that far ahead. Nobody can see that future. I think there are guys Purdue should have redshirted in the moment that they didn't or couldn't for whatever reason. I think Miles Colvin would have been a great redshirt. But that's completely beside the point. I think that ultimately it's going to be put up to Antoine West the same way it was put up to Raleigh Burgess last year. Burgess could have gone either way.
Yeah.
He decided he wanted to play. And a lot of kids are going to want to play. The really different guys are the ones who are going to say, yeah, okay, I'll sit here and watch from the bench all year and get better in practice and make practices my games and things like that. And, but ultimately, it's going to be up to him. And no matter what he decides, I don't think Purdue's going to try to talk him out of it.
All right. Interesting question here that obviously Diego Pavia with Vandy has been a topic of this as well. A 25-year-old Gonzaga player just got more eligibility because JUCO doesn't count anymore. Any chance Clough, who I think played 2 years, why not? What's any chance that he challenges as well and comes back next year?
I doubt it. No, I've been told unequivocal no's.
Yeah.
Every time I've poked around about that question, I think, some guys, some people, when they graduate from college, want to move on with their lives.
Yeah.
And sometimes they have plans, and I don't know what Oscar Clough's plans might be. He'll have professional opportunities somewhere, I'm sure, whether that's back home in Australia or somewhere else. But a lot of dudes don't want to be professional college basketball players. It's not their ambition. It's Chad Baker-Mazara, this guy at Gonzaga whose name I can't remember, Tyon Grant Foster.
Yeah.
Dudes don't always want to be that guy. And good for them. They're going to get to play. They're going to get their revenue sharing money. They're going to get their NIL money, things like that. Earn while you can. I have no issue with that whatsoever, but not everybody's like that. Sometimes people want to get out in the world. I always bring it back to Caleb first in terms of people assume that every player is motivated by playing time and motivated by being a professional basketball player and things like that. And while that's probably true of most, Caleb first got to Purdue freshman year, sophomore year, junior year, senior year. Just want to be a doctor, man. I just want to go. I just want to go be a doctor. And awesome. That's what college is supposed to be. And that's a kid who's got it in the right, that has got his stuff together, has got his heart in the right place, got his mind in the right place. But it's also why he didn't become a great college basketball player, is because he had more going on in his life than just basketball, which isn't to look down on guys who have nothing on their minds but basketball. Those are the guys who become the great players. But not everybody wants the same thing. And just to use Oscar Clough to put a face on this, is he might just want to go play professionally after this year. He might want to just get his degree and go back home to Australia, or stay here and go get a job. I have no idea. But Chad Baker-Mazara and Tyon Grant Foster obviously want to keep playing college basketball, keep getting paid to do it. I assume they have degrees by now, or else they wouldn't be bouncing around the country playing for every school in the country. But not every player is wired like that.
Yeah. All right. We're winding down this Tuesday Night Live, brought to you by Acre Pro. But I had a first question that came up, and I thought we've kind of addressed this as a staff, and also about what will be available on Freedom of Information Act, on the revenue sharing.
Yeah, we will get their financials in December. That will break down the total amount of money that's being dedicated to revenue sharing. We already know that number, though. Purdue is allotting the full $21.5 million. We have the percentages. Mike Babinski went on the record and told us what the percentages are. Most of it is going to 75% is going to football, as could be expected. 15% is going to men's basketball, which is proportional with what a lot of people are doing in a year where you have 3 stars that you are taking care of and an international guy that you had to buy out of his professional contract. So after this year, men's basketball might get a little bit less. I don't know. I don't think basketball is ever going to get shorted at Purdue, but the allotment might be altered ever so slightly. There's a small percentage there for women's basketball and volleyball, and then there's that $300,000 slush fund, for lack of a better term, for
lack of a better term, yeah,
exceptional
right
need. If track has an All-American,
or wrestling or whatever,
if wrestling has an All-American, if Shondell has an All-American, they need to keep, or they need to reward, is the better way to put it.
Yeah.
There's that money there. So,
but I don't think
pretty cut.
The question though, we're not going to get breakdown by person.
We can't, no, because that will be protected. That'll be protected by student privacy.
Yeah.
They will redact that if at all possible. That wouldn't appear in the financial report anyway. It would just be a line item thing about, here's what Purdue's athletic department spent on this, here's what they spent on this, here's what they spent on this, and then it'll do the same thing under subcategories by sport. So what will probably, when we get that financial report in the winter, I do FOIA that every year, just so everybody knows.
Yeah.
I don't always write something off of it because there's not always news in it. But we do get that every year. So we will get a number under football. We will get a number under men's basketball. We will get a number under women's basketball. We'll get a number under volleyball. And we will get like a general expenses number for revenue sharing. Now, keep in mind, though, also, there might be some buffer here because this money is going right to PayPal. So whether this money is ever actually technically Purdue's possession to spend, that I don't know yet. That's going to be interesting to see how the financial report is constructed, because as I understand it, the money is going right from the Big Ten to PayPal.
Right.
PayPal
is
distributing it to the athletes.
Right.
So PayPal is a private company. We can't access their records. So it is possible that all of this might get hidden just in that media rights number at the top of the financial report. But I am telling you, 75% of that $21.5 million is football, 15 or whatever the number is to men's basketball, and then women's basketball, volleyball, and the general fund.
Roughly 3 to 4% for women's basketball and volleyball. But you're right, there is that extra as well, and there's still
only $300,000 too. I think
it's still a little. It's also a little bit confusing of whether they started with 20.6, exactly what that number was. There was some mathematics that went into all that as well. So, all right, Brian,
we talk about NIL for a minute, because I think people are still kind of misconstruing
go ahead,
what this is. So the way the rules are now is that all of your deals over $600 have to go through Deloitte. If Deloitte sees irregular behavior, they're flagging it to the CSC, the College of
Sports Commission.
I just call it the CSC. I can't remember what it stands for, but they can hold up your NIL deals if you're doing any funny business. So when you hear coaches complaining about not knowing the rules or the rules being a problem for them, they're telling on themselves, because they're just trying to do whatever they were doing before when there were no rules, which is technically legal. We can talk about, the viability of actually policing this all we want, but the rules are the rules right now. And, it's not like even if there weren't any rules, Purdue would be swimming in money to just hand out to players, because that's the situation that was before, where you had the collective situation where they're just handing out money for nothing. If people are still doing that, they are breaking the rules. Purdue is going to abide by the rules. And if people want us to ask Purdue why they're following the rules, that's not really a legitimate question. Nobody's going to answer that question in any sort of way that is going to appease angry people.
Right.
But what NIL is now, and what it was always supposed to be, is that when you come and you make yourself a marketable person and you get earning opportunities, those opportunities can be realized. Braden Smith is a millionaire. Zach Edey was a millionaire because they came to Purdue and they became stars. And they got a real agent, Mark Bartelstein, whose office is working on their behalf to line up stuff for them. I don't think Fanatics, came to Braden Smith. I think, Mark Bartelstein and his group, Priority, organized that to get Braden Smith out to New York City to sign autographs at Fanatics Fest. I don't think Michael Rubin's sitting there saying, hey, who I really want here is that point guard from Purdue. So when you reach a certain level of achievement and you have the opportunity to cash in on that, you can do that now, but you have to get the achievement first. You can't just, the days of we're going to pay $500,000 for you to just come here.
Right.
Those days are over. So I don't know what this referendum in the court of public opinion suddenly is all about on NIL.
Well, in my opinion, it's got a lot to do with Indiana winning in football and the
Yes.
general opinion that Indiana has backed up the Brinks truck, which it did prior to July 1st to secure a good, very, very good quarterback. I mean, that to me that's a lot of where it's coming from in the Purdue world, and a lot of Indianapolis gnashing of teeth over that and what's going on in Indiana success in football, all those things. But, you're right. You can't, Purdue has chosen to play by the rules, and who's to say others may not, but in theory, they're going to have to, in terms of this governing body and the disclosure through Deloitte. So yeah, it's and again, you just never know exactly what the deals are for some of these other situations too, right? I mean, you don't know. This is not publicly disclosed, especially this stuff that happened before July 1st. So I think that's a big part of it too.
Well, I've heard, I don't know how much they're paying Fernando Mendoza, but he could have gotten more somewhere else. If he's making $2 million at IU, imagine what, Oregon would have given him, or Ohio State would have given him, or, whoever else. It helps that his brother's on the team too.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I can't speak to that, but there's just to me, it's a kind of it's a easy excuse or an explanation that isn't based on reality in a lot of ways in terms of what's going on other places. Again, you have to remember that prior to July 1st, and a lot of this stuff has been backloaded. This year is a little bit of an anomaly with respect to some of the money that's out there.
Yeah, because the Studio 54 part of this that ended on July 1st is
theoretically is coming
athletes. That's to put a little face on this. Trey Thompson, who Purdue wanted in basketball, obviously, would not have been eligible for unregulated NIL had he stayed in the class of 2026. Iowa was clever as hell because they got him in for an official visit right before July 1st. They had $500,000 which is the number I've heard. I can't confirm that.
Yeah.
But they had $500,000 laying around from their spring spending spree somehow, and it came up, hey, if you reclassify, we can give you $500,000. And 2 weeks later, he's enrolled at. Well, he wasn't enrolled at Iowa because he hadn't graduated high school yet. So he was in. He
reclassified, right?
But good for him. I mean, that's the American dream, right?
Yeah, and that
to be young and rich.
Yeah, that would be a good problem to have, and it is part of it. And yes, Purdue is the only school in the Big Ten that doesn't have a collective, but they've also one of the few schools, if not the only school, that hired someone in-house to handle a lot of this stuff. So that's where it gets a little bit out of control, and it has more to do, in my opinion, with losing to Rutgers and Minnesota and calling football into question and being Barry Odom said it on Monday. Tom asked him that question point blank. I mean, we have all the resources we need to be competitive. Ryan Walters didn't always say that 2 years ago. So he did last year. But my point is that, that you have to take them at their word at this point, in my view. So.
Well, you also have to give that statement credibility too, because when you say we've got what we need and the results still are what they are,
yep,
you're turning a finger on, well, what are you spending those resources on?
That is correct.
And that was the thing about Ryan Walters, was that we don't have enough money. Well, the money you have, look what it's like the scene in Dumb and Dumber when he takes the last of their money and goes buys a big foam cowboy hat and a pinwheel and a case of beer.
And then they ride in the back of that moped, right?
Look at the transfers that, Ryan Walters spent their money on. I mean, it
didn't work out.
Purdue was an easy mark, and that was the problem. And when Barry Odom says we've got everything we need, you got to take him at his word, because the weight of those words is he's saying that, yes, we're 0 for the Big Ten season, but we've got the money we need. So he could easily say, oh yeah, we don't have enough money to buy better players. So believe him when he says that. Yeah. And if you don't think Purdue spends on football, go look at that football building.
Yeah. Go
look at those coaches' salaries, which are competitive now with Purdue's peers. That's not always been the case.
Yeah.
I understand people are frustrated, but
that's where a lot of it comes from.
I think they're fighting windmills here.
Yeah. Yeah.
The issue.
Yeah. Go ahead. Finish up.
Sorry. I'm just going to keep talking.
No, that's all right.
Try to get myself in as much trouble as possible. If you want a bad guy in all of this, Purdue culture is not necessarily compatible with, paying the players. I mean, Purdue's collective had every opportunity to rake in tons of money from people. People weren't in on it. That didn't mean the collective was doing a bad job. It means it was a tough sell to Purdue people who have been used to giving their money for scholarships and tickets and, things like that, and had to have their arms twisted to buy into that part of it. Whereas the people who really hit the ground running with NIL were the people who were paying the players already. They already had all their alumni networks up and ready to roll because they were doing it in the shadows for years. Texas A&M football, Indiana basketball, Illinois basketball, it was Miami everything. That was the nature of it. Purdue is not, and I can speak to this credibly because our business is dependent on, people's passion for sports. Purdue has a relatively small but very loyal fan base. I got that backwards. Purdue has a very loyal but relatively small fan base. It is a university of international renown, but sports isn't its thing, isn't its priority. And, when somebody comes to Purdue to get an engineering degree, they leave. They go somewhere else. They go to Chicago. They go to the East Coast. They go to the West Coast. They go back overseas, wherever it might be. You don't have fans everywhere like a lot of these other schools do. You don't have Subway alums the way a lot of other places do. Your richest alumni tend to not be sports people. You think astronauts and computer engineers, all due respect to our friends with the pocket protectors, they're not the people, at tailgates on Saturday afternoons outside Ross-Ade Stadium. They're off changing the world, and that's fine. That's optimal, actually. If you go to Indiana, you become a teacher, you become a lawyer, you become a doctor, you stay here. You stay in Indiana. You set up your practice locally. You're still around. If you're into sports, you're still going to basketball games. You're still going to football games. You've got the money. It's on your radar every day because you're local. If you look at I always use this as an example. I go to these events, these preseason basketball events all over the country. Whether it's San Diego, whether it's the Bahamas, whether it's Maui, whether it's Puerto Rico, basketball game at Washington. Purdue people per capita turn out better there than they do in Indianapolis because they're spread out and they go where money is, which isn't to say there's not money in Indiana, but it's a very spread out following.
Alumni base, yeah.
Am I getting myself in trouble here with our?
No, I think you're right. I mean, and you'll see when USC and UCLA going to be a lot of Purdue people out there. But you're right. It's the fact that the demographic fact is there's 3 Indiana alums to 2 in the state of Indiana and 2 to 1 in the city of Indianapolis. I believe is still the case, and that that all that impacts the big picture and what And I always use Mark Cuban as an example, but that is an example, or John Mellencamp. I mean, not that Purdue doesn't have those types of people, but they don't have
at IU. Larry Ellison is out there buying quarterbacks for Michigan.
Right.
You had T. Boone Pickens for years at Oklahoma State. You got Phil Knight basically trying to buy a national title in football before he dies. Purdue doesn't have that guy, and not everybody does. So it's not like that sets Purdue apart. I think your wealthiest people, probably aren't as invested in sports as they might be at other places. Yeah.
And that's, it's not necessarily a fault. I think there's some reality. And I also think that it's not like they're not working on it. They understand.
Yeah. It's not like Purdue's not trying.
Yeah. And this is not a homer view. This is people we know, people that we've watched. They're working on it. That part of it too. All right, Brian, we appreciate. I don't think you got yourself in too much trouble. It's just
I'm sure I did.
Good content, and we appreciate that. We'll be back next week. Now, men's basketball opens the season on Tuesday night. The plan will be back Wednesday. We'll talk some hoops in all likelihood, and that would be November the 5th. Usually the show is Wednesday night. Time TBD, but we'll keep you posted on that as well. So Brian, I'm going to let you go and get back to your evening, what's left of it. And we appreciate it very much. You are now going to be removed, but thanks, Brian. Nothing like that's really interesting stuff especially down the stretch. And we appreciate the people that you folks that took the time to soak it all in tonight. Again, we want to thank acrepro.com. When it comes to land sales, it pays to have experts in your corner. Acre Pro Midwest Farm Group are your local farmland specialists. Visit acrepro.com or call 765-775-6502 and talk to your local land expert today. And again, that number 765-775-6502. And a reminder also, you can subscribe to goldenblack.com. We'd love to have you do that. You can also at the end of you can don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button too. And of course you can leave a positive review on your favorite podcast platform. A 5-star review and comment would be very, very helpful. And we do have a special for folks that watch us on our YouTube channel. You can use promo code PU1 at checkout when purchasing a monthly subscription. Get 2 months for $1. You can do that at goldenblack.com. But we very much would love to have you as part of our, we're doing 3, 4, 5 of these shows a week during football season. And Brian will be continuing to do them throughout post-game, his rap video, his drive home, Saturday simulcast. Of course, the Tuesday radio show will continue on throughout the course of the year. So have a great rest of your Tuesday night. Thanks for taking the time to join us. And we will see you next week, next Wednesday on acrepro.com, Wednesday night, Tuesday night live. Thanks so much.
As you all know by now, Golden Black Radio has also teamed up with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for our listeners each week. When you join BetMGM, you get access to a variety of parlay selection features like same-game parlays, live betting options, and more. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3, and you'll get up to a $1,500 first bet. Offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code ON3. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code ON3 when you sign up. Make this college football season one for the history books. Make it legendary. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 and over only. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. First bet offer for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that can expire in 7 days. In partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3 and get your $1,500 first bet offer today.